Hey everyone, Mr. Harvey here. Let's start our lecture on Baroque art. We're on chapter 5, and today we're going to be really focusing on the Baroque art movement, kind of in the context of absolutism. So, in the previous lecture, ladies and gentlemen, when it came to Baroque art and architecture, we really focused on Baroque art and architecture in the context of the Catholic Reformation. Today we're talking about it in the context of absolutism, okay? So, just a little reminder, just a little review, all right? The Baroque era really began with the Catholic Reformation. And remember, it was really an art form that was trying to teach and focus on the power and glory of the Catholic Church, really trying to, remember, recruit people back to the church. But today, we're going to be talking about it in the context of absolutism as a way to convey that power of our absolute monarchs, a way to convey their glory, and it's got a lot of the same elements, that drama, that overwhelmingness, but today we're really kind of talking about it with absolutism. All right, remember, it was really prominent in Catholic countries first, France, Austria, southern Germany, but we know that it spread to Protestant countries a little bit later, Netherlands, England, and some of our areas in northern Germany. Okay, so remember some of the key themes, ladies and gentlemen: drama, emotion, that overwhelmingness. Remember in some of the paintings that we're going to see, those colors, really bright colors, but also really dark colors, really light colors, that contrast and those that tenebrism, and we'll definitely be able to see some of that and look at that as we look through some of the paintings. Okay, remember, really important, especially in the Catholic Counter Reformation, ladies and gentlemen, is that some of the paintings and sculptures with the Catholic Church, we're speaking to more of an illiterate audience rather than a literate or well-informed audience. And remember that kind of makes sense because the Protestants were more literate because, well, the Bible was their sole authority, and if you're going to live a biblical life, you need to learn how to read the Bible. So, really important for us to understand that, ladies and gentlemen. And again, the appeal to emotions, the drama, the overwhelmingness, all really important themes, all really important notions within Baroque art. Okay. Now today is really cool because, and I'm really excited about this, but we're going to be focusing on the Dutch within the Baroque movement and this Dutch style, and we'll be focusing on that, ladies and gentlemen. But part of the Dutch style within Baroque art is their focus on real people, everyday average people, and that's really just illustrating how they were focused on conveying how well they were doing, because they're just going to be painting everyday average people and showing how wealthy they are, how comfortable they are, and that high standard of living. So let's continue and let's talk about it. Okay, really quickly, let's review the previous lecture a little bit from Baroque art. And remember, we're on chapter 5. We talked about Baroque art in chapter 3 previously. So let's just review some of the main themes that we've talked about so far in some of our main artists. Bernini, remember him, Colonnade for the Piazza. He built this really to show the power, convey the power of the Catholic Church, right? Welcome to the Catholic Church, and this is that entrance to Saint Peter's Basilica. All right, again, the Church showing that power. This is in the Vatican, showing their glory, overwhelming, having that emotionality. Whoa, wow, very important for us, ladies and gentlemen, within the Catholic Counter-Reformation within that Baroque art. All right, now I really want to focus today on Baroque architecture that reflects the power of absolute monarchs, and our examples are in their palaces. The most notable palace, we've already talked about this, we've seen it, okay, Louis XIV and Versailles. That's the best example. Now we have other examples, the Schonbrunn by Leopold, the Winter Palace by Peter the Great, the Escorial by Philip II. There's multiple palaces that really illustrate Baroque architecture and art within the age of absolutism, reflecting that power of absolute monarchs. But the best example that I recommend for y'all is Versailles. I mean, Versailles, ladies and gentlemen, and we saw it in class, is stunning. It's incredible. It is just unreal how extravagant it is. And remember, ladies and gentlemen, I mean, this is, in the late 1700s. I mean, people are coming here and just completely like taken aback when they see Versailles. There's thousands of people there. It's almost a new city just for the monarchy and the nobility and the privileged in France. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, how expensive it was. It cost 1/2 of France's GDP, its revenue every year, just to maintain the gardens, the cooking, the cleaning, transportation, food, all these things. I mean, it is unbelievable, and we saw that, and it still is today, ladies and gentlemen. Absolutely. Okay, so Versailles, the Schonbrunn of Austria, similar. I mean, really trying to showcase that power, overwhelm people, illustrate the glory of the monarchy. Again, the Schonbrunn, another example. But if I were to write, a DBQ, LEQ, SAQ, be writing about this, or even have a multiple choice on what the best example is, I remember Versailles. Versailles is the symbol of this Baroque art when it comes to absolute monarchs. Okay, but the Schonbrunn is incredible too. All right, looking at this architecture, ladies and gentlemen, pretty incredible, pretty beautiful. The Winter Palace by Peter the Great. Russia. This is Russia's example again. And Peter, and remember we talked about Peter, ladies and gentlemen. He that westernization, that modernization. Peter took a lot of influence from Western Europe. This was one of them. I mean, he saw what Louis was doing, and he said, I need to get a palace just like that as well. And so the Winter Palace is Peter's example and symbol of his power, and it's gorgeous. It is just an absolutely gorgeous palace. Here's the square in front. I took that picture on a bus. Not the greatest picture. You can kind of see the reflection of the window. All right. But again, that art and architecture. Okay. All right. Let's talk about some of the paintings, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. And remember, let's do a quick review of Baroque painting. The importance of color. The importance, ladies and gentlemen, not necessarily of the detail, but of the overall dynamic effect, that emotionality. Super important for us, ladies and gentlemen. The use of shadow, the use of tenebrism. Tenebrism is so key to Baroque painting, ladies and gentlemen. And we're just doing, a quick review, but tenebrism is a major theme within Baroque painting. Okay, let's continue and let's take a look at some of the painters and paintings that we discussed last time. All right, Caravaggio, remember, and we talked about this painting, the Saint Francis in Ecstasy. But again, we can see the themes of Baroque art in this painting. All right, that tenebrism, that lightest of the lights, darkest of the darks, that use of shadow, ladies and gentlemen, so key. And the emotion that we feel as the viewer, but also the emotion on their face, this look of sympathy, of sadness, of comfort. All right. And then, from that, we kind of derive our own emotions of sadness, of sorrow. Really important themes of emotionality within Baroque art, ladies and gentlemen. Very important for us. Okay? Similar, right? Very similar. We see so many themes of Baroque art in this painting. That tenebrism again, that shadow, okay, versus the light. The lightest of the lights versus the darkest of the darks. The emotion, you can see it on the figures' faces, but we also have an emotional response ourselves as the viewer. That sadness of seeing Jesus being beaten. That sadness of knowing what is about to happen, how he is about to be crucified and killed, right? Very important themes within Baroque art, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, Rubens, just this is review, just another important Baroque art artist, all right? Again, that color, we see the color. We see the emotions, the focus on the face. We see the Jesus suffering. We can kind of see that with the whites of his eye. Okay, and again, that emotionality, right? We see Jesus, suffering. We see him, the blood pouring from his hands and his feet as he's been crucified and nailed to the cross. That emotionality within the painting, but also within the viewer. Okay, in that use of color, the blue, the red, all right, the white, the darkness, the clouds, all really important aspects of Baroque art, ladies and gentlemen. All right, now this is one of my most favorite aspects of Baroque art, ladies and gentlemen. It's the Dutch style, and we've talked about the Netherlands so much. We talked about them in chapter 4 with their revolt against the Spanish. We talked about their recognition in the Treaty of Westphalia. Then we talked about the Dutch Golden Age. Okay, the Dutch this artwork that we're going to be seeing in Baroque art really reflects a lot of what has been going on in the Netherlands. So let's talk about it. Okay. It doesn't really fit with the Baroque style of trying to overwhelm the viewer, ladies and gentlemen, but what it did was it really reflected their religious toleration and their wealth, okay? It really reflected their urban in rural settings of everyday average life in the Dutch Golden Age, and it was really focused on everyday average people. Okay, to showcase how Dutch society kind of worked, and it really illustrates, ladies and gentlemen, so many of the things that we've talked about: their economic prosperity, their toleration for other groups. I mean, in the last lecture, we saw, a painting of synagogues of people who were Jewish, of different faiths. That's really going to echo the Dutch style that we're going to be seeing, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, and many of these works were commissioned by the government or merchants. Okay, let's take a look at some of the artwork, and let's take a look at some of the artists. We have Rembrandt Van Rijn. All right, probably one of my most just like I love learning about Rembrandt. He is one of my favorite artists that we're going to talk about. He is incredible, ladies and gentlemen. So much talent. He's doesn't really fit into one category of art. He's considered Baroque because he definitely painted. Most of his art form came during this time period. But he had a tremendous amount of range. Okay, he could paint in so many different styles. And one of his key themes that we're going to see within his art is tenebrism. Really utilize that Baroque technique, and the talent, the variety of paintings that Rembrandt is going to paint. It's pretty incredible. Okay, his art was very intimate, very psychological, a lot of thinking, a lot of just a lot of thought goes into his paintings. And you get it. It's really interesting how Rembrandt also painted in some of his techniques, and so we'll look at that. And he actually made his own paints, which was pretty cool. And we'll look at that. Now take a look at this painting, ladies and gentlemen, The Anatomy Lesson of Dr. Nicolaes Tulp. All right, really interesting painting, ladies and gentlemen. This is in the Netherlands, and what does this tell us about what's going on in the Netherlands at this time, and also what does this tell us about their society? This really reflects the Dutch society. Think about that for a second and then come back to me. All right, hopefully you've unpaused your video. I want to talk about this. This shows the interest in science. The scientific revolution is going on, ladies and gentlemen, and guess who's at the forefront of it? The Dutch, which makes sense. Protestant, open to new ideas. They're cutting open a human, and you can see people taking notes, people being interested, trying to learn about how the human body works. And that's going to be a fundamental part, ladies and gentlemen, of the scientific revolution. And there's no coincidence that it's happening in the Netherlands, as I just said. Protestant, open to new ideas. They are interested in this. They are open to this. They are accepting of these new ideas. You may not see this in more conservative, maybe more Catholic countries like Spain, okay? But we see that in the Netherlands, all right? The Storm of the Sea of Galilee, just an incredible painting, okay? And remember, this painting really illustrates that maritime, that mercantile spirit of the Netherlands in the ocean trading, and we can definitely get that vibe from this painting right here. Okay, but you can see that tenebrism, that lightness, that shadow. You can kind of see the color, different shirts. Okay, and this is Rembrandt. All right, this is just a couple photos that I took when I went to Rembrandt's museum in I believe it's Amsterdam. I was in the Netherlands. But he painted, ladies and gentlemen, with 12 colors, and he made his own paints, which was pretty cool. And this is how he did that: he had this powder that he would get, and then he would mix it in with the oil, and he would paint. He would make his own paintings, and I believe this was the most expensive dye that he got, and I believe he got this dye from the Middle East. I'm not too sure, but that was the one that was the most expensive out of all these dyes that he got. But this was kind of cool. This is just showing how he made his paints. It's pretty awesome. All right, this was his bed, which was pretty cool. I learned that he slept like he was half up, so his back would actually be up against a wall, and that's how he would sleep. It was a really tiny bed, and that's how he preferred to sleep, which I thought was really interesting because I don't find that very comfortable. I usually lay down when I sleep, and he did not. He had his back against a wall, and that's how he slept. So very interesting fact about him. A painting that he had on in the museum, and this is in Rembrandt's house, which is pretty cool. All right. This is he was a big collector of items, and he was a big collector of artifacts, and these are just some of the various artifacts from Rembrandt's collection, which was pretty interesting, pretty cool. Some old armor, some seashells, sculptures. Okay, all right. So let's move on to another artist, ladies and gentlemen. We have Jan Vermeer. All right, his paintings really typified the Dutch style. He was a master of the use of light. All right, and his paintings really specialized in showcasing the scenes of ordinary people, ladies and gentlemen. He really focused on that, and perhaps one of his most famous paintings, arguably, is the girl with the pearl earring. Just an every average Dutch girl walking around the Netherlands with a pearl in her earring, really symbolic of that wealth, of that prosperity. And this is an everyday average person with a giant pearl in her earring, illustrating that high standard of living that we know about the Netherlands. They are doing very well. All right. Another theme that we're going to be seeing, ladies and gentlemen, within the Baroque period is called French Classicism. This was really, we're going to see a kind of a transition, and we'll talk more about this later on when we talk about Classicism, Rococo, Neoclassicism. All right. We're going to start to see the classics coming back a little bit, and we'll get to that a little bit later. In the next quarter, in the next semester. But this is a blend of classical themes with Baroque art. So the classics, aka perspective, aka math, bringing back the simplicity, the balance, bringing back some of those classical themes and mixing it with the Baroque. So it's a mixture of Renaissance art and Baroque art. And one of our important artists was Nicolaes Poussin. All right, and his paintings really showcase that balance and harmony of the Renaissance. That's classical, those Greek and kind of Roman themes. A devotion to classical scenes, landscapes, but he also had some Baroque techniques: the color, the tenebrism, that use of light and shadow. So he's kind of mixing the Renaissance with Baroque, which was interesting, and you can see that in here. Okay, absolutely, I see that. I see perspective. All right, I see a little bit more detail in people. All right, but I also see some Baroque. I see use of color. Oh, sorry about that. A little use of color. I see a contrast. You have kind of these dark pillars, and then you have the light. So just a little mixture of Baroque and classical, some Renaissance art. Pretty cool. All right, another one, landscapes, but you can see a mixture. I see kind of the darkness, but then I see the light, the color, the different types of greenery. Okay, so just a mixture of the two. All right, now we're also, ladies and gentlemen, and this is one of my favorite parts of the year, is music and plays. Art is not just the visual arts of architecture and art, which is what we've really been focusing on. We're going to see, ladies and gentlemen, dramatic improvements in music and in playwrights. And one playwright is Jean Racine, all right? Another is Jean-Baptiste Molière, all right? And they are going in their plays, they're going to meld the classics with Baroque themes. And so we'll see that within their plays, all right? But let's talk about music, ladies and gentlemen. Music in European history is fascinating. We're going to talk about so many interesting people. Mozart. We're going to talk about Beethoven, Tchaikovsky. So many interesting people. And music, again, is another way that reflects what's going on in society at that time. And so music, we will see music really reflect this Baroque period. Okay. And let's talk about some of the characteristics. Now, we're going to watch some videos in class. I am no musician. I know very little about some of the specifics of music. But we'll watch some videos that can in class that'll help us describe it a little bit more. But here's some of the basic characteristics of Baroque music. One characteristic is the belief that the text should dominate the music, and that the lyrics are more important, and libretto is more important. And during this Baroque time, and we're gonna watch a couple videos, and here are the videos in the link if y'all want to watch it. But there's we're gonna see the modern system of major and minor start to develop during the Baroque, and that's just kind of a combination of notes, okay, that give music a certain feel. So like happiness, sadness, all right, and then we're also gonna see dissonance, which is just a sound used a lot more frequently than consonants. Okay, and we'll discuss that more, ladies and gentlemen, in class. But and I use these videos to kind of help me because I will not pretend to be a musical expert. But these are just some of the important themes, and these will not necessarily show up on the AP exam. But I just like talking about it because I think it's really interesting. All right. Now we're going to see Monteverde during this time of Baroque art. He's going to develop the opera and the modern orchestra, and we're going to see some of the first operas coming out during this time. All right, but the greatest and the person that you need to really associate with Baroque music, ladies and gentlemen, is Bach. He wrote in a variety of genres, but one thing that made his music very Baroque is that it got complicated. He wrote in polyphonic structures, which is very complicated structures. And he wrote very ornate, complicated music where there's a lot going on. That will differ from Classicism, where the music is a little bit more simple, more balanced. All right, and we'll watch a couple of videos about Bach and listen to his music in class to get an idea of us understanding some of those Baroque, themes within his music. But music really important. We're going to listen to a lot of interesting music in this class when it comes to some of the art. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching the video. And this is the end of chapter 5. Thank you.